The restaurant went silent the moment the billionaire CEO looked across the table, and realized the exhausted single dad sitting in front of her wasn't the man she was supposed to meet. But instead of leaving, she smiled softly and said, "Maybe fate brought the wrong person to the right table." What happened next changed both of their lives forever. Before we begin, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that sometimes love arrives when life feels completely broken, and the people who heal us often appear when we least expect them. Daniel Carter hadn't planned on going to the blind date. At 36 years old, life had already taken everything out of him. His wife, Emily, had passed away 3 years earlier after a long battle with illness, leaving him alone to raise their 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Since then, Daniel's world had become painfully small. Wake up before sunrise. Make Lily breakfast. Work long hours repairing heating systems across the city. Pick Lily up from school. Help with homework. Put her to bed. Repeat. He loved his daughter more than life itself, but exhaustion had settled deep into his bones. Some nights, after Lily fell asleep, he sat alone in the kitchen staring at unpaid bills while the silence of the apartment reminded him how empty his life had become. His younger sister, Rachel, hated seeing him like that. "You're surviving, Daniel," she told him one evening while helping Lily color at the kitchen table. "But you're not living anymore." Daniel forced a tired smile. "I don't have time for living." "That's exactly why you need this date." "No." "Yes." "I said no." Rachel rolled her eyes dramatically. "Her name is Vanessa. She's kind, smart, successful, and apparently she also hates dating apps. You already have something in common." Daniel laughed despite himself. "I barely remember how to talk to women. You used to charm everyone. That was before life punched me in the face." Rachel's expression softened. "Emily would want you to be happy." That sentence hit harder than Daniel expected. For a moment, he looked toward Lily, who was humming quietly while drawing a crooked rainbow. Maybe Rachel was right. Maybe he had buried himself in grief for too long. So against every instinct telling him otherwise, Daniel agreed. The date was set for Friday evening at one of the fanciest restaurants downtown, a place Daniel would never normally enter because the menu prices alone could pay half his rent. Friday arrived with disaster attached to it. Daniel's boss called him into an emergency repair job across town. A heating system had failed inside a luxury apartment complex during a cold rainstorm, and Daniel spent hours soaked, crawling through mechanical rooms and fixing damaged pipes. By the time he finished, he looked terrible. His white shirt was wrinkled beneath his jacket. His hands still carried faint grease stains no matter how hard he scrubbed them in a gas station restroom. He was already 20 minutes late. He nearly turned around and went home. But then he remembered Rachel's hopeful face, and Lily hugging him before he left. "You deserve someone nice too, Daddy." Those words pushed him forward. When Daniel entered the restaurant, he immediately felt out of place. Elegant chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Women in designer dresses laughed softly over wine glasses. Men in expensive suits discussed business deals. Daniel adjusted his old jacket awkwardly. A hostess approached him politely. "Reservation name?" Carter. Daniel Carter." She checked the screen and smiled. "Your party has already arrived. Right this way." Daniel followed nervously. At the far corner of the restaurant sat a breathtaking woman wearing a dark emerald dress. Her long black hair rested elegantly over one shoulder, and confidence seemed to radiate naturally from her posture. Daniel froze. There was absolutely no way this woman was waiting for him. Men glanced toward her constantly as they walked by, but she ignored every single one of them. The hostess gestured toward the table. "Enjoy your evening." Daniel's heart nearly stopped. The woman looked up from her phone. Their eyes met. For a brief second, surprise crossed her face. Daniel panicked internally. She was clearly disappointed. Still, he forced himself forward awkwardly. "Hi. I'm Daniel." The woman studied him carefully. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. "I know." Her voice was calm. Warm. Daniel sat down nervously. "Sorry I'm late. Work emergency." "That's all right." An uncomfortable silence followed. Daniel reached for the water glass too quickly and nearly knocked it over. Smooth, he thought bitterly. The woman suddenly laughed softly. Not mockingly. Genuinely. And somehow that eased the tension. "I'm sorry," she said. "You just look terrified." "I am terrified." That made her laugh again. For the first time in years, Daniel found himself relaxing. What he didn't know was that the woman sitting across from him was not Vanessa. Her name was Victoria Hale. And she was the billionaire CEO of Hale Technologies, one of the most powerful companies in the country. Victoria had been waiting for her own blind date arranged by her board chairman's wife. She rarely agreed to anything personal anymore, but after years of endless business meetings and loneliness hidden behind wealth, she'd reluctantly accepted. Then Daniel had sat down. At first, Victoria assumed he was her date. But within moments, she realized something had gone wrong. Still, something about him stopped her from correcting the mistake. Maybe it was the exhaustion in his eyes. Maybe it was the way he spoke honestly instead of trying to impress her. Or maybe it was because every wealthy man she'd dated treated conversations like negotiations, while Daniel treated her like a human being. So she stayed. And for the first time in years, Victoria forgot she was supposed to be guarded. They talked for nearly 2 hours. Daniel spoke about Lily constantly without even realizing it. Every time he mentioned his daughter, his face softened in a way Victoria found impossible to ignore. "She wants to be an astronaut this week," Daniel said with a tired smile. "Last week she wanted to be a dinosaur." Victoria laughed quietly. "Sounds ambitious." "She's the best thing in my life." The sincerity in his voice struck her deeply. Most people spoke to Victoria differently once they learned who she was. They became careful. Calculated. Greedy. Daniel didn't even ask what she did for a living until halfway through dinner. "So what about you?" he asked. Victoria hesitated. Normally, revealing her identity changed everything instantly. But tonight felt strangely precious. "I work in business," she answered simply. Daniel nodded casually. "Must be stressful." Victoria almost smiled at the understatement. "You could say that." Then his phone buzzed. Daniel checked it and immediately tensed. "I'm so sorry," he said, standing abruptly. "My babysitter has to leave early. Lily's not feeling well." Victoria's expression changed instantly. "Is she okay?" "She probably just has a fever, but I should go." Daniel reached awkwardly for his wallet. Victoria stopped him. "Dinner's covered." "No, I can pay my half." "You can get the next one." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Daniel blinked in surprise. Victoria felt something unfamiliar warm inside her chest. He smiled softly. "I'd like that." Then he hurried away into the rainy night. Victoria sat there long after he left. And for the first time in years, she realized she didn't want the evening to end. Meanwhile, outside the restaurant, another woman stormed toward the entrance furiously. Vanessa. The actual blind date. She had been stuck in traffic for nearly an hour. When she finally reached the table, she found it empty except for Victoria. Confusion spread across Vanessa's face. "Where's Daniel?" Victoria looked up slowly. And suddenly, everything became clear. The wrong man had sat at the wrong table. But somehow, it had felt exactly right. The next morning, Daniel woke up embarrassed. He assumed Victoria had probably